We are going to continue today with dividing polynomials. The type of division today is long division. So here are your steps. First, you want to make sure that your dividend is in standard form. So standard form means that it's lined up so that the exponent the variable with the highest exponent is first, and then they go in descending order. So it should go, if it starts with an x cubed, it should go x squared next, x to the first power, and then your constant. Also, you want to make sure that you are not missing any powers of x. If you are, you're going to use placeholders for that. So if you had an x cubed, but you did not have an x squared, you would put in a 0x squared because it would hold the place of where your x squared should be. And we will see that in our example. The next thing you'll do is you'll divide using your long division algorithm. So when you were back in elementary school, the way that they showed you how to divide, that's the algorithm you're going to use. And then if you do have a remainder, you're going to take and write your remainder over the divisor. And again, I'll show you that in our examples. So here's our first example. So this is my dividend right here. Making sure my powers are all in descending order. This one looks really good. We have a power of 3, 2, 1, and a power of 0 because that's my constant. X to the 0 would just be 1. I am not missing anything. I'm starting at the third power. I have 2, 1, and then my constant. So this one is ready to go. So I'm going to set it up using my long division algorithm. So what that means is you're going to put your divisor on the outside, and then you're going to use long division. You're going to put this whole polynomial here underneath that bar. Okay, and if you recall your long division algorithm, just real quick, if I was going to divide 5 into 136, you would first try to divide 5 into 1. 5 doesn't go into 1, so you do 5 divided into 13. So 5 goes into 13. So the first thing you do is 13 divided by 5. So this is going to give me 2 with the remainder, right? Because 5 goes into 13 at least 2 times. So I put my 2 over my 13 because I divided into the 13. And then the next thing I do is I multiply. I multiply 2 times 5, and then I put that answer right down here. So 2 times 5 gives me 10. And then the next thing I do is subtract. So 13 minus 10 is going to give me 3. And then I drop down my 6. And then I start all over again. So the algorithm, the order that goes in is divide, multiply, subtract. Divide, multiply, subtract. And you're just going to keep doing that until you run out of terms. Okay, so going back to this polynomial, so we're going to first divide. When you're doing your division, you're just looking at the very first term and the very first term when you're doing the division. So I would recommend writing your steps over to the side until you get really good at this. So you're thinking about x cubed divided by x. So x cubed divided by x is going to give me x squared. Now I'm going to take my x squared, I'm going to put it up top, but I want to keep my powers of x lined up. That's why we have to use placeholders if we're missing anything, because if I did not have an x squared in this one, then I wouldn't have anywhere to put this quotient. Okay, now you did your division. The next thing to do is to multiply. Now when you do your multiplication, it's kind of like the distributive property. You're taking this x squared and you're multiplying it by this whole thing here. So what I like to do is just write it down as like a distributive property. And then whatever answer you get is going to go right here. So distribute your x squared. We get x squared times x will give me x cubed. X squared times negative 5, that's going to give me negative 5x squared. And then now we're going to subtract. When you do your subtraction, you have to be careful here because you're going to subtract that entire row. So you're subtracting the quantity. So what's going to happen is this sign is going to end up flipping. Okay, x cubed minus x cubed. These will always cancel if you did it correctly. That first term will always cancel. And then we have 2x squared minus negative 5x squared. So this really turns into a plus. So this is going to give me 7x squared. Okay, because 2 minus a negative is really 2 plus 5. Now we just drop down our next term and we start all over. We're going to divide, we're going to multiply, and then we're going to subtract. This time when we do our division, we're looking right here at this first term. 7x squared divided by x. We're always dividing by x. So when I do this division, this is going to give me just 7x. This is a positive 7x, so when I go to write that up here in my quotient, I'm going to use a plus sign. And then you're going to multiply. So again, you want to think about it like the distributive property. It's the 7x from here multiplied times this quantity, the whole quantity. So I would write it down so you can see what you're doing. And then use your distributive property, and that answer is going to go right there. So 7x times x is going to give me 7x squared. 7x times negative 5 is going to give me negative 35x. Now we are ready to subtract. Remember, you're subtracting the entire row. 7x squared minus 7x squared, that's going to give me 0. These are going to cancel, which is good. And then I have negative 31x minus negative 35. So it's really negative 31 plus 35. So that's going to give me 4. Drop down your negative 25. And that's the last number that we need to drop down. So we just have to do this process one more time. Again, we're always dividing by x. Since we're dividing into this row, we're looking at just this first term here. So 4x divided by x. Your x's are going to cancel, so we just get 4. It's a positive 4, so up here I'm going to write plus 4. And then I do my multiplication. Always multiplying times x minus 5. And then whatever that product is, I'm going to put right there. So 4 times x is 4x. And then 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Do your subtraction, subtracting the entire row. 4x minus 4x, these guys are going to cancel off. Negative 25 minus negative 20. So this is negative 25 plus 20. So this is going to give me negative 5. Okay, so this is my remainder. The way you write your remainder is you just kind of tack it on to the end, but you have to write it over your divisor. So this is my divisor here. So it looks kind of weird when you write it. It's a negative 5, so I'm going to do minus my fraction, 5 over x minus 5. Okay, so this green part right here, this is your answer. This is your whole quotient. Okay, so I'm going to do one more example with you because this one's a little bit more difficult because we have a coefficient here in front of our divisor. We are missing a power, so we need to make sure we account for that. So when I go to write this out, it's 3x minus 7 on the outside. But if you notice, I'm missing x to the first power. X to the first power, if I had it, would be like right between these guys. So I'm going to put 0x in its place. So 9x cubed minus 21x squared plus 0x, because I don't have x to the first power, so I put a 0 in to hold the place, minus 3. And now I can do my division algorithm. So I'm going to do this one a little quicker than I did the one before, so this video doesn't get too long. You can always pause it, rewind if you need to. Okay, so you're always dividing by the first term here. So here's what we're thinking. 9x cubed divided by 3x. 9 divided by 3 is 3. X squared, x cubed divided by x is x squared. So I'm going to put my 3x squared above my 21x squared. So I divide. The next thing I'm going to do is multiply. So we're always multiplying by this quantity that's out front. And then I'm going to put my answer right here. 3x squared times 3x is 9x cubed. 3x squared times negative 7 is negative 21x squared. And then we're going to go ahead and subtract. Minus the whole quantity. So 9x cubed minus 9x cubed. This is going to give me 0. Negative 21x cubed minus negative 21x cubed, x squared rather. These are also going to cancel, so I end up with 0x squared. So then the next thing you do is drop down your next term. Okay, so well, this looks kind of weird because 3x is not going to go into 0. So we would kind of move on to the next term. Well, 3x doesn't go into this 0 either. So we would move on to our next term, which is negative 3. 3x does not go into negative 3. So this here is going to be my remainder. It's a negative 3, so then we just say minus 3 over 3x minus 7. So if things cancel out, that's okay. That's actually good because the problem makes the problem shorter. But if they cancel off, then you just move on to the next term. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. I will be having office hours again from 11:30 to 12:30 today. So please pop in if you need to do any of these together. I'm happy to do them with you.